So here we are again with Santiago Ramon y Cajal. As we mentioned, when he became a doctor, he knew he was very interested in neurons, but there was a problem. Santiago knew he wasn't a genius. He didn't have a race car brain. In fact, he felt like he had a hiker brain that got to answers very slowly. He often wished he were smarter. He stumbled over his words and he forgot details. But his research on neurons showed him that he could retrain his neurons. By working to learn math and science, he gradually changed his abilities in those areas. Through slow, steady practice, he made new links, changing the structure of his brain. That's how he went from young troublemaker to famous scientist.
Santiago Ramon y Cajal is today one of the most famous neuroscientists, who now we simply call Cajal. During the day, Cajal would sit and look through his microscope at many beautifully stained neurons. At night, he drew many beautiful pictures of the neurons from memory. He was an artist as well as a scientist. His pictures of neurons are still used today to help students learn about the wide range of shapes and sizes of neurons. Through his research on neurons, Cajal discovered something very important about the developing brain. Synapses form rapidly, and they continue to change their strengths as you learn new things. Learning makes us smarter, and learning about how to learn is one of the best things you can do to make your learning more successful.
So, let's explore a powerful technique to help you learn. This technique's called recall. Recall means bringing an idea back to mind. Actively recalling key ideas as you're learning has been shown to be a great way to help you understand those ideas. For example, let's say you're trying to learn something from a book or from your notes. Here's how to use recall to help you. First, carefully read the page. If you need to, underline a key word or two, but not too many. This is the important part. Look away from the page and see if you can recall the key idea or ideas on the page. Lay them back in your mind or say them out loud to yourself. Don't simply reread the page over and over again. And don't underline or highlight big amounts of text. That doesn't help put anything in your mind.
Pulling the key ideas from your own memory is the critical idea behind recall. Recall is what makes the dendritic spine start to sprout. Just passively reading or rereading a page or underlining parts of the page doesn't make those dendritic spines pop. And it doesn't help you form those all-important new brain links.
Try recall on a few key pages of what you're trying to learn in your studies. You'll be surprised at how this can help. Research has shown that if you use recall when you're trying to study, you'll also do much better on tests. Recall doesn't just put information into your memory, it also helps you to understand what you're learning. It's a good idea to recall information at different times and places. You can use recall while waiting for a bus, going to sleep, or taking a bath.
I want to point out one more important idea. Some people need more practice and repetition than others to get a concept and create brain links. That's perfectly okay. For example, I often have to practice, recalling information much more than other people. I learn very slowly. Yet by practicing, I eventually became a professor of engineering.
For me, I learned some things slowly and other things quickly. Some of my friends, like Terry, learn many things quickly.
Even though each of us learns in different ways and at different speeds, everyone can learn. So don't feel bad if it takes longer for you to learn things than your friends. You can still learn the information just as well and sometimes even better.
Time to move on. In the next video, we're going to learn about your brain's attentional octopus. I'm Barb Oakley.
I'm Greg Hammonds.
And I'm Terry Sinofsky.
We and Arizona State University wish you happy learning. Imagine an octopus with an arm that can stretch from your school bag all the way down the hall to a locker. Sounds strange? Stay with me. Lockers and school bags are metaphors that help us to understand how your brain stores information. Your brain uses two different memory systems, working memory and long-term memory. Your working memory is small. It can't hold much, kind of like your school bag, but it's very handy. It holds whatever you're working on at the moment. That's why it's called working memory.
Your long-term memory is like a locker. It's usually not very handy. You have to walk down the hallway or travel further on your mental pathways to get to it. But you can put more stuff in a locker than in a school bag.
Let's take a closer look at your mental school bag. That is, your working memory. Metaphorically speaking, it's like you have a friendly little octopus that lives in your mental school bag. This is your attentional octopus. It allows you to hold ideas in mind. Whenever it wants to, your attentional octopus can spark a little bit of electricity at the end of its arms. These sparks help it to speak to neurons.
Your working memory, that is, your attentional octopus, lives in your prefrontal cortex. Your attentional octopus helps you hold on to information temporarily in working memory.
Let's say you're introduced to 3 people, Adam, Omar, and Sarah. You hold those names in your mind with the arms of your attentional octopus. Wait, was her name Sarah? Was it Laura? Your octopus's arms can be slippery. Information can slip away. That's why you often find yourself repeating something you want to temporarily remember, like a name, Sarah, 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 or a number, or the chores your mom just told you to do. You're helping your octopus to hold on to the ideas.
Your attentional octopus isn't like ordinary octopuses. For one thing, it's electric, and it only has 4 arms. This means it can only hold 4 things at the same time.
Here's an example of a mental list. Clean my room, do my homework, brush my teeth, tease my brother. Try to add anything else to your mind and it's easy to forget. After all, your octopus only has 4 arms.
How do you put your attentional octopus to work? By focusing on information. Ever forgotten a name right after you heard it? You weren't focusing. Your attentional octopus was asleep. It couldn't grab the information. When you learn something new, you focus hard. Your attentional octopus is busy, arms all entangled with each other.
Everybody has an attentional octopus, but they're all a little different. Most have 4 arms, but some people's octopuses can have 5 or even more arms. These octopuses can hold even more information than usual, but some octopuses only have 3 arms. They can't hold as much information. Some octopuses can easily stick their tentacles onto information and hold it firmly. Other octopuses have slippery tentacles and have trouble holding information. Incidentally, don't worry if your octopus has fewer arms or even slippery tentacles. As you will soon discover, these seeming drawbacks can give you an unexpected advantage.
Your attentional octopus can hold on to information for only a little while, maybe 10 to 15 seconds. Then the information can slide away unless you concentrate or repeat it. If you want to remember information for a long time, it needs to go somewhere else.
Fortunately, your brain has another memory system, long-term memory. That's like your locker. You can store a lot of information in your long-term locker memory. It's almost like magic. You could never fill it, which means you never have to worry about overloading it. You can recognize your friends' faces. Your favorite jokes are in there too. So's the route you take to school, and lots of facts and concepts you've learned.
Your long-term memory isn't in the prefrontal cortex like your working memory. Long-term memory is much more spread out. Each piece of information that you store in long-term memory is a brain link. Simple information makes shorter brain links. More complicated information makes longer, more complex brain links. Brain links are the brain's way to chunk together bits of information into a whole.
But how do you get information into long-term memory? How do you make brain links? Can simple tricks help you remember more easily? Yes, let's get started learning some of these tricks in the next video.
I'm Barb Oakley.
I'm Greg Hammonds.
And I'm Terry Sinofsky.
We and Arizona State University wish you happy learning.
Nelson Dellis was a forgetful kid growing up, just like most kids. He couldn't remember the names of people he just met. He forgot birthdays. Once, he forgot a hot dog on the stove. His father came home to find it burning. But at age 31, Nelson found himself competing at the U.S. Memory Championships. He was in the last stage of the competition. He needed extraordinary memory expertise to have any hope of winning. His final test? He needed to memorize 2 decks of cards, 104 cards in perfect order. Could Nelson really become U.S. Memory Champion? Can ordinary forgetful people become memory athletes?
In the last video, we learned about your attentional octopus, that is, your working memory. In this video, we want to look more closely at what's going on in your long-term memory, that mental locker where you store information that you want to keep for a long time. Your long-term memory has 2 parts to it: a toothpaste tube that's sitting in the locker and the rest of the locker. I know what you're thinking, huh? These are our metaphors for the 2 parts of long-term memory. The key idea is this: it's hard to put stuff into a toothpaste tube, but it's easy to tape a picture to the wall of a locker.
We already know that your attentional octopus can take information out of long-term memory. It can reach out to zap a connection to a brain link. But your attentional octopus also puts information into long-term memory. The octopus first looks at the information to decide where it belongs. Pictures go onto one part of your cortex and facts go into some other part. To your octopus, facts are like toothpaste. They're hard to handle. Your octopus struggles to squeeze facts into a tube. But if the information is a picture, your octopus is much happier. It just sticks the picture to the wall of the locker. Easy peasy.
What do we mean by a fact? Maybe you have to memorize the fact that Africa's largest city is named Lagos. Or maybe you have to memorize 1473, the year that the famous astronomer Nicholas Copernicus was born. Facts like this are abstract. They're harder to see in your mind's eye. That's what makes facts harder to store, like putting toothpaste in a toothpaste tube. But information that's in pictures is much easier to remember. Imagine you're building a large, as in huge, Lego building right there in Lagos. There. Now you can easily remember that Lagos is the largest city in Africa. And for the year 1473, well, maybe your cousin is 14 years old. So picture your cousin at her 14th birthday party, which happens to have a cake on Copernicus's head. A tiny superhero spreading his arms, leaping forward from the top of her head. That's the 7. The superhero is leaping towards 2 oranges set together. The 3. There you go. You've just memorized 1473. Do you get the idea? If you convert a fact into an unusual picture, it will get a lot easier to remember. If the picture somehow involves movement, it will stick even more strongly. This is what Nelson does. Basically, he tells himself silly visual jokes that help him to remember.
Here's another example. In chemistry, there's something called the reactivity series. Basically, some chemicals blow up more easily than others. To learn the reactivity series, you need to memorize these metals in the right order: potassium, sodium, lithium, calcium, magnesium, aluminum, zinc, iron, copper, silver, gold. That's 11 metals in the right order. You could repeat them dozens of times and still not have the list stick in memory. Here's where a trick can help. Think of a kid in gym trunks in a science lab. He wants to go outside and play a sport. He looks towards his teacher, who's dressed in a lab coat. He says, "Please, sir, let's cancel math and science. Instead, cricket, swimming, golf."
The first letter of each word in the sentence is the first letter of each of the metals. This is called a mnemonic. If you know the mnemonic, you can write the series down at the beginning of the test. That gives you the information you need to solve the chemistry problems. You had to rename science Science, but it works.
I'm Barb Oakley.
I'm Greg Hammonds.
And I'm Terry Sinofsky.
We and Arizona State University wish you happy learning.